Hello, hola. Welcome back to Witches of the Moon. I'm the Humble Apprentice. I'm your Friday host. This is season 13, and we are on week 4. This week's topic is the timing of spells, using time when we plan our spell work. It can be as simple as doing your spell during the full moon or the new moon or the dark of the moon. I like to do my rituals for the full moon whenever I feel called to use the influence of the planets in their greater capacity, and the energy of what's going on astrologically in our spell work. And there takes a little bit more effort. I do have an app. There are a few apps out there that calculate the planetary hour, which make it a lot easier to figure out how to or when to plan your spell work. Each day has a planetary influence. The names of the days of the week are representative of the planets that they correspond to. If we start off with Sunday, that day is, like the name says, corresponding with the day of the sun. Then we go to Monday, which corresponds to the moon. Then Tuesday to Mars. Wednesday, or Woden's day, it's Mercury. Thursday or Thor's day for the planet Jupiter. Friday, Frida's day for Venus. And Saturday corresponds with the planet Saturn. So I think what's really important to understand if you're going to use the planetary influences in creating your spell work is that the day is what has the power. So for instance, let's say you're going to use Monday as a day you're planning to do your ritual because you want to use the influence of the moon. Then you have to figure out what type of influence you want the moon to have, because each hour of the daylight corresponds with a certain planet, and that's what the hour represents, the influence on the planet. So if you're going to use Monday, and the very first hour of the day when the sun comes out, that is, and it's not a full hour, it depends on daylight savings time and the time of the year, and that's why it's a bit more intricate to calculate the planetary hour, because it changes throughout the season depending on the amount of daylight or night moonlight there is. So in the summer, daylight expands. In the winter, moonlight expands in time and influence on the planets. So let's say you're using Monday and you're going to be working with the moon. So the whole day will have the influence of the moon. But if you use it on the first hour, you will be working with the moon and the influence of the moon. So anything to do with subconscious inner working, searching for the hidden, looking on the inside and trying to figure out or divine things. Those are really good, very good time to work with the moon. Or let's say you're working with the moon and the hour of Jupiter. Then Jupiter will be the influence on the moon energy, but the moon energy is the one that is prevalent. So the moon will have all the influence of the subconscious and the inner workings of the mind, the divinatory and empathic energy. And Jupiter will use its influence of expansion and prosperity and fortuitous energy to influence the moon energies. And then if you were to use the moon energy with Mars, Mars is a planet of Mars is a god of war, so it is also a time to do spells that have to do with subconscious influence on, and spells to do with influence the subconscious of an individual or a place or an energy. Let's say you are working on Thursday with Jupiter and you want to create a speech or write a speech or write a book or write spell work for your Book of Shadows. You can use the creativity and abundance and expansion of Jupiter at the time of Mercury. The hour of Mercury would be good because that has to do with communication and eloquence and getting information from one point to another. Mercury is the god of being able to, he moves through the realms and through the different levels of existence to get messages from the gods to the people, and from the people to the gods, and from, let's say, from Hades to Thor or Zeus. So he has free reign, and he would be the influence on Jupiter. And Jupiter is all about power and expansion, fortune, but not just in acquiring money, but fortune in bringing things to help and to bring abundance into a situation. Well, all the planets are powerful if you are able to connect with the energies, and working with the timing and the hour, and where the planet is at its most potent and powerful in that day brings the energies and the correspondences into your spell work. Another thing that you can do with the planetary hours is, let's say you want to work with Jupiter, but before you work with Jupiter, you want to give an offering to Jupiter to let him know that you are going to be coming forth and asking of his energy and his influence on your working. You can go and do an offering of crystals or herbs or smudge or incense or meditation and sit with Jupiter and on Thursday in the hour of Jupiter. that's when it's a good time to communicate with Jupiter and bring the offering in. So it's a thank you in advance of what you're going to request, to recognize that you are asking for something and that you are offering something. So you're offering something ahead of the time when you're going to do your ritual, and then you're going to make your request. You're going to make yourself known to the deity, and you're not just going to come empty-handed and ask for whatever it is that your request or spell work requires of that that planet or that deity. Knowing what hour to work with them, knowing what the planet or the deity gravitates towards, knowing what you want to share or how you want to communicate with the deity, how much you want to do this before you go and do your working. I mean, to me, it's like an introduction, you know. Usually don't go to someone on the street and ask them for $20 or ask them to give you their jacket. You usually have to form some kind of a relationship. They have to know you. It's easier if they have a rapport with you. It's easier if someone knows you prior to you asking something of them. It's not a supplication. There's nothing about someone being more or less. It's just about communication. To me, it makes sense that I would want to introduce myself to a deity or to someone that I don't know. And like my great-grandmother, she's a big influence in my work. She always was about giving, and she always said, if you want to borrow something, make sure that when you return it, it is as good or better than when you borrowed it, so that when you go back to borrow something else, they will be willing to share or to give you or to let you borrow whatever it is you need, because they know that you respect them enough to take care of their energy, their property, what they graciously let you borrow or let you use or give you. So you develop a balanced way of communicating with the energy, with the element that you want their power and influence to use for your working. Also, don't be cheap. I'm not talking about buying expensive things. When you give, make sure that you give enough as what you want to have or get in return. Now, you don't have to give them a gallon of wine or a gallon of milk, but remember that you want their generosity. You're asking them to aid you, to help you, to bring you abundance, to bring you assistance in your working. Small side note, when I first began doing my rituals, when I gave or shared wine with deity, I just shared a little bit, a few drops in a bowl or on the ground that I would eventually put into the earth. A little, because I thought it was the act of giving. And of course, I had the rest, which was 3/4 or more of the glass of wine. I didn't want it to go to waste. And that whole attitude was, it was okay, but it was noticed. So in one of my communions or meditations, I was invited to come in and wait while one of the deities was doing some work for me. And the deity I was sitting with asked me, "Would you like a glass of wine?" And I was like, "Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's nice. We could sit here while we wait." And he comes out with a tiny little glass of wine. And I looked at it and I said, "What? Oh." And then he's like, "I can only give you as much as you give me." And it was such a great revelation to me. I understood immediately what he was trying to tell me. There was no need for explanation or words. And I apologized and I said, "I'm sorry, I didn't understand the relationship between me giving for me it was just an act, but then now it is one of the biggest reasons I have ritual is to be able to give back in thanks and in gratitude for what they have so graciously brought into my life. And so the bowl of fruit and nuts or dates and cheese or chocolate, I try to make it as plentiful and as beautiful as I want to have myself, if not more, right? It's like what you would want to give the person that you love. I now pour 3/4 of the glass of wine out, and I only take a sip. Or, I share, but when I offer the wine, it's not going to just to the one deity, it's going to the deities, all the deities that I work with. So I partake because I want to join in, but I give them enough so that they can all share. The food and fruits are also plentiful. I want to make certain that it is enough to give them energy and give them the power to produce the results that I need, that I am asking for. So it may not have to do with the planetary hour, but I think it explains a little bit of how to view the act of giving and sharing your bounty with deity, and in turn they reciprocating, giving you back. There are apps that you can buy that help you figure out planetary hour. You can also go to just Google planetary hour charts, where you can find charts that you can print out so that you can have something visual and tangible, so that you can have it in your Book of Shadows for, you know, when you're writing up your spell. Also, remember all of the full moons and the fire festivals, the equinoxes and the eclipses, when the planets are in retrograde and when they're direct. Those also have an influence or change the aspect of the planet. And it depends on what constellation is it's into. Sometimes when Mercury goes in retrograde, it doesn't have as much of an influence on you. It also depends on what was going on when you were born astrologically. So sometimes it does have an effect of the opposite of communication. So communication is thwarted, or sometimes there's just hiccups. Most of the time it's not huge. It depends on what constellation is in. Sometimes when it's in like earthly constellations like Capricorn, they might have more influence on your finances. When it's in Pisces and it's in retrograde, it may have more an influence of like spiritually, or not feeling as connected. Planetary timing, planetary hour, it has an influence on spells. You can choose to work with it. It takes a little bit of time, diligence, writing things down. It helped writing some of the influences in my Book of Shadows because, you know, for me, hearing is important, seeing is important, and actually physically writing something down, it helps me remember. And there's so many ways that the planets interact with one another that it just makes it a little bit easier to follow and to understand the difference in the power dynamic of the day and the hour, and how they work together. Okay. I think that's that's what I can tell you about Planetary Hour today. I hope that you have a good evening, a great weekend. Stay safe, and blessed be.